Alright, mile marker 3, absolute value equation. First off, we need to know what exactly is an absolute value. The definition is the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Now notice the keyword distance. So you might want to highlight or underline that word. It is a distance. Now distance is not negative. Okay, we never tell somebody we live a negative 3 miles away from them. So distance is not negative. So just be careful of that. Now absolute value does have its own symbol, and that symbol will look like this. These are two straight bars. They're not brackets or anything, but they are bars. These are called absolute value bars. Alright, now since absolute value is a distance from 0, you're probably thinking of the number line. And the number line can go two different directions. You can go to the right of 0 and you can go to the left of 0. So let's see how this works. Let's look at the following problem. This is read as the absolute value of -3, which means how far away from 0 is -3? If here's -3, here's 0, how many units away is it? Well, it appears to be 3 units to the left, but it is just 3 units away. Let's look at another one. This is read as the absolute value of 4, which means how far away from 0 is 4? Well, there's 0, there's 4. How many units does that appear to be? It appears to be 4 units away. 4 units to the right, but it is just 4 units away. So what if I'm thinking of a number that is 6 units away from 0? What is my number? Well, thinking of a number line, you can go 6 units away from 0. Most people think to travel to the right, and we end at number 6. But is that the only direction that person can go? Well, can't they also go 6 units backwards? And aren't both of those values 6 units away from 0? So as a math equation, it would look like this, read as the absolute value of x equals 6. If we go to the left 6 units, we would have traveled to the number -6. So we write the equation as absolute value equals -6. Or we could have traveled to the right, and we would have been at +6. X equals +6. So when it comes to absolute values, you actually have two directions that you can travel, to the left or to the right. So solving an absolute value equation in the form of absolute value of something, x, equals a, some number, so this means some number, where that number is positive, then x equals -a, which means it's to the left of 0, or x equals +a, which means it's to the right of 0. So our first example says to solve, and we have the absolute value of 2x equals 24. So here's kind of our how-to and how to do this. So isolate the absolute value. Well, that means, does this say absolute value equals some number? And we look at it, and it does. We need to do a check, make sure this value right here equals a positive number. And it does. Now we're ready to do our two equations. So we are going to go to the left. So if I have 2x and I go to the left 24 units, that leaves me at -24. Or if I were to travel to the right 24 units, that means 2x would be at +24. There's my two equations. Now that I've created my two equations, we get to solve each of them. And so, remember, you have your equal sign. And if I have 2x, that means 2 times x. How do we undo multiplying by 2? We divide both sides by 2, which now gives us x equals negative 12 for our first one. Now for our second equation, we must do the same thing. We need to divide both sides by 2, which again gives us x equals positive 12. And so in this case, we actually have two different solutions. So we have solved it. Now to make sure we're right, we do want to take the time to check. And so checking the first solution, that means absolute value of 2 times negative 12 should equal 24. Well, 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. And so this is read, absolute value of negative 24 means how far away is negative 24 from 0. And we know that to be 24. And so 24 does equal 24. We know we are right. Now we must check the second one. So absolute value of 2 times 12 should equal 24. 2 times 12 is 24. And so again, absolute value means how far away is 24 from 0. And it is 24 units away. So 24 does equal 24. So we are correct. Alright, I moved our post-it. We're ready for example B. Now it says isolate the absolute value. Notice we have absolute value equals a number. So this is already set up. Now we need to check and make sure this is a positive value. And it is. Because remember, distance can only be positive. Since it's ready, we're now ready to create our two equations. So we take whatever's inside the absolute value, which is 4x plus 2. And if I travel to the left 6 units, that puts me at negative 6. Or I would have 4x plus 2. And if I were to travel to the right 6 units, that would put me, at positive 6. And so now we have created our two equations. Now we get to solve them individually. Again, I'm going to draw my line at my equal signs, so I can kind of remain organized. And now we solve. Alright, so to solve for x, we need to subtract 2 on both sides. And so the 2's cancel, giving me 4x equals negative 8. Now to undo the multiplication, we need to divide both sides by 4, which gives me x equals negative 2. Now that's for my first solution. I'm not done because I have a second equation. And so again, in this case, I need to subtract 2 on both sides. So I did it on both sides right there and being fair. And we know that 2 minus 2 cancels, giving me 4x equals 4. We need to divide both sides, the whole side, by 4, which gives us x equals 1. So we have our two solutions. Now that we've solved it, you can check them. You check them by plugging them back in. So take a moment to do that right now. for D. Alright, step 1, like we've been doing in the past, we want to isolate absolute values, so let's check. Notice, here's my absolute values. Does this say absolute value equals? And it doesn't. So, we need to do something. We need to get rid of this plus 9. So what we're going to do is we are going to subtract 9. Absolute value of 5x plus 9 minus 9 equals 24 minus 9. The 9's will cancel. Isolating the 5x, oops, I will carry away there. I was excited. Equals, and 24 minus 9 is 15. Now we have isolated our absolute value. Second thing is check. Make sure this equals a positive number. And it does. So we check it. Create two equations. And so if we travel to the left and if we travel to the right, and if we travel to the left 15 units, that puts us at negative 15. Or if we travel to the right 15 units, that puts us at positive 15. And then from here, we're ready to solve. So to get x by itself, we need to divide both sides by 5. And that gives us x equals negative 3 as one solution. Now it's time to solve the second one. To get x by itself, we need to divide both sides by 5. And so when we reduce, the 5's reduced, giving us x equals 3. And so, it's now time for you to check your solutions.